The regular meeting together. Let's stand for Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have to do roll call first, correct?
Correct. Commissioner Coring.
Here.
Commissioner Lubke.
Here.
Commissioner Barrows.
Here.
Commissioner Franzine. Here. Commissioner Hoag.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. This is time for open forum. If there's anybody in here who would want to speak that isn't on the agenda, I don't really see anybody. So, or anybody online? Do we do online at all for open forum?
I don't believe we have anyone.
Okay. So we will go right on into review and approve the minutes from the 3/12 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Who seconded it? I'm sorry.
Oh.
Was it Doug? Oh.
Doug.
Commissioner Coring.
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine.
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye.
Commissioner Lubke.
Aye, motion carried. Review and approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, we
Is
have
there
no
any
changes.
additions?
No changes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine.
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye.
Commissioner Coring.
Aye.
Commissioner Lubke.
Aye, carried. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, if there are no objections, I will make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Mr. Chair, I do have a couple questions,
Oh, okay.
if I may.
Sure may.
I see the master contract for the annual March Township Election Coordination Services, and I see Debbie is online, and I was wondering if she might give us an update on where we're at with the city of Cross Lake.
Very good.
Oh, sure, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, good morning. I recently spoke with the City of Cross Lake, probably around the end of February at one of their board meetings, at their council meeting. They did ask me to attend to provide them with some information. And I attended their meeting. I had provided them with answers to some of the questions that they had, gave them some information on what absentee voting would look like if they were choosing to do that in their community. And at that point, I did let them know if they had any further questions that they could certainly feel free to reach out to me. I did let them know that we will need a decision from them no later than May 1st so that we can make sure all the notices, all of the voter information that needs to be put together, all of that can be done to meet the statutory deadlines. To this point, at this time, I have not received any follow-up requests or questions from any city staff or council members. I am assuming that they have the information that they need to complete their decision. I am always willing and able to answer any questions that they have, but I've not received any further comments or questions from the City of Cross Lake or their staff at this time.
Any other questions about that?
Deb,
Yes.
what would be their date that they would have to let us know by if they want us to do it, or are we set already to be doing it?
Well, at this point, Mr. Chair, the statute that defaults is that the county is the one that conducts the absentee voting. So if I don't hear anything, if we do not get final notice from them that they have everything in place and are ready to take on that task, we will be the ones who are doing the administration of absentee voting. If May 1st comes and goes and there's no notice from the city, or if they state that they are not looking to complete that activity, then that would be at the county level that will continue to occur. If they do decide that they are going to offer a secondary location for absentee voting for their citizens, that notification that they have everything in place and are ready to proceed will have to be made to us before May 1st.
Okay, thank you. Anything?
Chair, I have another question on an
Yes.
unrelated one, and if there's any other questions on that. Mr. Chair, I see John Melson is also online, and we have an emergency repair to our chiller, and was wondering if John could tell us a little bit more about the background on that.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Mr. Houle, during the midwinter check of our chiller plant, which we do every year to kind of help us see if these kind of problems are coming before we actually need the chiller in the spring, we found that there was a freon leak in the chiller, and it's occurring at a suction elbow, which is about an 8-inch diameter piece of pipe that goes from the compressor to the suction side of the chiller. We don't know exactly how much refrigerant we lost, so we budgeted kind of a contingency for refrigerant in this budget amendment. But the fund is to remove that 8-inch elbow, repair this seal, replace it back on, and then recharge the chiller.
And this is to be funded out of Fund 2, correct?
Yes, sir.
So Fund 2 is the carryover fund that is allowed for maintenance and for IT, because oftentimes they will have projects that span over more than 1 year. Or like this, you have a repair that is necessary that may be kind of large in 1 year and not in another. You really just don't know. So Fund 2, we allow at the end of the year facilities to take whatever carryover funds that they have left and put it into this Fund 2. It can only be used then for these kinds of emergency repairs or things that come up that we didn't have budgeted. So I think it's a nice way for us to sort of level out the peaks and valleys of budgeting in facilities. I don't know if any other board member or if anybody else has a question.
I'm just wondering, Mr. Chair, if, we've had presentations by the Sheriff's Office and by Fleet Management, if we want to have an additional discussion, or not discussion, but have them come up and tell us what these are in their respective departments and why they're on our consent agenda, just for clarification for the public so they know what's going on. So if I might, I would ask the jail staff to come up and just tell us a little bit of why we have a contract for the update bid for the jail. Well, the contract is on our consent agenda.
Yep.
I don't know that the public has been privy to what that is concerning and why we have to do this.
A few years ago, we had a death in custody, and the DOC came to investigate and make any recommendations to the jail. After its investigation, it was determined that we had to make some modifications to each of the cells. So we had a few people come and go around the jail and look at the different cells and see, what the bid might come to and how much it might cost. And I believe we had 2 people that put in for a bid on what was needed to be changed with the cells, and it came to be upwards to $500,000.
All right, and take it, and this is in regards to ligature points
Yep, that's
in
correct.
the cell blocks, so.
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
And DOC is the regulatory group that tells us how we have to manage our,
Yeah, so whatever
jail.
recommendations that they make in order for us to continue on with the licensing with the Department of Corrections, we have to make those adjustments and those changes.
very good.
And, Mr. Chair, obviously, DOC licenses, Department of Corrections, Minnesota Department of Corrections, licenses county jails, and they have standards for those county jails. We built our county jail, and it was according to the then existing DOC standards. Those standards change over time as DOC, and we all learn more, and it's a really sad deal here. Because ligature points, what is that? It's a point upon which you could hang yourself. And what we find in a jail setting is that sometimes people have hung themselves 8 inches off the ground. I want you to think about that for just a second. 8 inches off the ground. And so when we have people do things that you couldn't possibly have anticipated that they were going to do, the standards change. DOC came in after we had a fatality and said, we need to do something to try to eliminate that risk. And so this project is about trying to eliminate the risk of people hanging themselves in the jail. And it is part and parcel of what it takes to run a jail. It's not always peaches and cream. Sometimes it's this.
Very good. Thank you, Troy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have one more question.
For
Mr. Bray.
Mr. Bray.
Fleet, I see in the consent agenda that we have a budget amendment in here for some fleet things, and was wondering whether or not you might be able to tell us a little bit more broadly about what's happening with fleet.
In broad terms, I think there's no, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I think over the course of the last couple years, Joe Luxick, our fleet manager, has been in front of you on a couple different occasions talking about the supply chain and the way that some of the availability of these vehicles have come and gone, short windows to get on the state bid. Sometimes the manufacturer's unable to deliver on a particular model vehicle and they move into the next year and you have to pay the upcharge. And so a lot of these, as a matter of fact, all of the ones on your list that are in your packet are having to do with maintaining the sheriff's fleet. There's one highway skid loader in there as well. But it's related to the availability of these vehicles and the increase in cost that is incurred when that happens. And I think there's a good explanation in your packet there that talks about one of the more disturbing things that I know that my colleagues and others around having to deal with vehicles are that you start at a contract price, but the manufacturers are not honoring the contract price. And if you want the vehicles, you have to pay the upcharge. And like I said, there's a good explanation in there. So the budget amendment is to make up that increase in cost between what we had budgeted in the CIP and what those vehicles cost right now to continue on and maintain the sheriff's fleet primarily. Any more questions about that? I don't know, maybe Joe is online.
Yep, I'm online, Tim.
Oh, Joe is online. How did I do, Joe?
Good. Right to what we needed.
Any questions for me or Joe?
Nope, I want to thank you, Tim, and just so the public understands the conundrum that we're in, where we go out there and we try to purchase these vehicles, they don't honor it, and then it's the delay period, and we need to replace these vehicles, and we have a very good process for replacing them, but we get stuck when they won't honor their prices, and so we pay the upcharge. I just want the public to understand that's what we're caught in.
Right.
And it isn't just Crow Wing County, it's every county in the state, so. Right. But thank you very much for enlightening the public.
Mr. Chair, while Mr. Bray is up there, I thought you might want to hear an update on how we're doing on roads this morning.
Thank you for asking, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. The plow crews have been out since Sunday, actually. Sunday about noon, they went out and went out for about 6 hours or so, knowing that they were going to get up very early Monday morning. So both yesterday morning, Monday, and Tuesday morning, they were up at 3 a.m. to make sure that they were addressing this storm and really making sure they get the morning commute, make sure that the roads were in as good a condition as they could be. And I think they're pretty good. They're white, but they've been out since 3 a.m. and they put in a very long day yesterday to catch the morning and evening commute, and I would anticipate that they do that today. The good thing is that this time of year is that sun is very strong, and I anticipate when the sun comes out here later this week that we'll have some black and dry roads. I'm hoping certainly by Friday, so these people that have worked the last 2 days very hard can enjoy the Easter weekend with their families.
Tell them we said thanks.
Excuse me?
Tell them we said thanks.
I will do that.
Absolutely. Did a great job.
That's all them.
Mr. Chair, I believe you have a motion and a second on the floor.
Do we have a motion, a second?
Yes,
Yes.
the consent calendar.
Okay.
Commissioner Barrows and Commissioner Franzine. You ready for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Barrows,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoag,
Yes.
Commissioner Coring,
Yes.
Commissioner Franzine,
Yes.
Commissioner Lubke.
Aye. Motion carried. Now we have Land Services, the Pine River Watershed Implementation Update.
All right, good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. About this time last year, we gave an annual report of what we've done with our what's called watershed-based implementation funding that we were receiving through the Board of Water and Soil Resources through Clean Water Funds from the Lessard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council. So we wanted to re-up you guys with what we've been up to. We're trying to hit Crow Wing and Cass because within the Pine River, that covers those two counties specifically. So on page 3, you can see the watershed boundary of which this entails, which is a good portion of our county, and was one of the first plans that were created. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second here, but what I wanted to make you aware of is how much money we've been receiving. So if you go to the next page, for the first 2 phases, we received $482,000. It comes on a biennium, so every 2 years. Within the second phase, we did apply for additional One Watershed, One Plan, or watershed-based implementation funding. Those two words kind of get used interchangeably, but we did apply for another $122,000 that we're planning on a project with the City of Cross Lake and the Crow Wing County Highway Department, as well as a shoreline on Bertha Clamshell Lake, which we did receive that funding. So this came after, that funding came after this report was made. So in phase 2, there's another $120,000 there. But we did apply for our phase 3 funding, which ends in, I think, 2026. So we are currently working on a new phase of funding. So if we continue, I just wanted to make you aware of some of the items within the plan. There's a protection goal that we've been trying to reach for some of these subwatersheds. Last year we did 67 acres, but that doesn't include the 739 that are in progress currently. It just shows how long conservation easements take to go through the process. With private forest management, you'll see a steady incline of forest stewardship lands as well as acres that we've been implementing to go into programs like Sustainable Forest Incentive Act, as well as 2C and conservation easements do require a forest stewardship plan. So you see a large increase in the number of forest stewardship lands, and I think that's contingent on our outreach that we've done, as well as the good relationships we have with landowners that are coming through looking for those renewals, as well as new plans going into conservation easements. With shoreline buffers and rain gardens, we kind of just maintain what we've been doing. We've always had a good relationship with our lake associations, as well as our community members to do natural shoreline restoration projects. So you can see that goal there. And the exciting thing, I think, within this last phase 2 that we've accomplished was we did purchase a new 10-foot native seed drill, which you can see on the front cover of this document. It's really exciting. We've had a good amount of interest. My phone rings off the hook most days for people looking to rent it, even though they haven't been able to plant with it yet because of the snow. So we are really excited for that, and also kind of explore and kind of broaden our avenues of how we can help landowners in Crow Wing County, as well as Cass County as well. And you can see with the pasture management, similar to the native seed drill, we've been doing a lot with rotational grazing, so that prescribed grazing, moving cattle within the pasture. We did almost 700 acres of plans with those landowners, as well as implementing little practices that they can do, like putting watering facilities, as well as more fences to divide paddocks so that they're rotationally grazing to increase the amount of vegetation that's within their pastures. Next page, you can see the native seed drill, which I mentioned. That's kind of our current rate that we're charging landowners, as well as what it can do. It can pretty much do anything that a landowner wants to plant. We can interseed within pastures, we can do cover crops, we can put in native prairie land, anything that a landowner has interest in. And then the second to last page, you can see our outreach. We're attacking things on all avenues for smart salting, as well as meeting with lake associations to talk about natural shoreline restoration, to just specific outreach mailings for easements, things like that. So you can take a look at that. And then the last page is kind of what we've been working on with the City of Cross Lake and the Crow Wing County Highway Department, from the north end of Big Trout Lake to now what is the U.S. Army Corps near the Loon Center where the Roundabout project is going. And we've got that whole corridor accounted for stormwater management practices within that. So I think that's really exciting, and you can see the reduction estimates, and those go straight to our plans, which we've met some of those lake plans because of that, like Island Loon, things like that. So does anybody have any questions?
Maybe, I don't know, Adam, if question or comment. You know, I've served on that One Watershed, One Plan way back before I was in this position here, and it taught me an awful lot about what Crow Wing County Soil and Water does, you know, versus what we do also at Crow Wing County. And it's like you got a different set of tools in your toolbox, but we're all accomplishing, we're all working towards the same goal of making it sustainable up here, making it pretty, making it Minnesota's favorite place. And so I really want to commend you guys and your team for doing it. And thank you for inviting me on Friday to listen to your landowners event, because I felt that was quite interesting, and I'd like to, you know, sometime maybe later on have a little bit of an update on what specifically we did in a couple of those places, because the landowners actually came up and made the presentation, which I thought was, you know, for them to come in there and talk about how pleased they were with working with us and what we're doing, and how they feel good about Crow Wing County and being able to have land in Crow Wing County and being able to improve it and make it that way. And I think that was I think it was well done. I want to thank you for inviting me for that. So
Thank you, Mr. Chair and County Commissioners. The last thing I'd like to add is the Pine River One Watershed One Plan, or watershed-based implementation funding, is going through its 5-year review, because this is a 10-year plan, so we are halfway. So we are going to start to reassess our goals, how we're making progress towards those goals that were established in partnership with the county and the Soil and Water Conservation Districts and Bowser. So,
and I think I'm on the what is it, the Crow Wing watershed now, which is Gull Lake. It's in kind of the Nisswa area in Gull Lake, and then heads all the way up north, and that's it's a pretty big watershed, and that's in process too right now. That'll be another year before we're
I think
done with
projected next summer.
that? Next summer, yeah. Okay. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Good morning. The next item we have on the agenda for your review is to approve the memorandum of agreement for the Mississippi Brainerd watershed for implementation. This plan was recently approved back earlier in 2023, and at that point we were under a planning memorandum of agreement to actually put the plan together, and now what we're asking the board to approve is to transition from the planning memorandum of agreement to the implementation memorandum of agreement, so that when the funds come from the Board of Water and Soil Resources, we have a mechanism in place to implement those funds. If there aren't any questions related to the MOU, I'd recommend approval as submitted.
Any questions on the board?
Does she have anything to add? Melissa, did you have anything you'd like to say?
No, I just would like to say, Chris indicated in your packet kind of the history of this plan. The policy committee met at the end of February, which is again representations of soil and water conservation supervisors as well as county commissioners, and all of the 4 counties are very supportive of the plan in the process for this implementation, and agreed to kind of go back to all their individual boards to approve this agreement. And just to clarify, you know, this is a collaboration, so we're going to be working in partnership, and so there isn't, each county and SWCD kind of still has the final say in what they decide to do within their own boundaries. And so it's been a great process, and I just wanted to thank Commissioner Barrows. He actually attended the Board of Water and Soil Resources board meeting to represent this plan, and he did a fabulous job. And so I just wanted to thank the county commissioners and for his efforts being a part of this process.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to add that working with these 4 counties, the 4 SWCDs that were involved, and many others that were on advisory groups and technical groups, was a pleasure. Having a group that large and from 4 counties can sometimes be controversial. This group was very they were concerned about this watershed, and I think they all saw the value in moving forward with this. So it was an easy group to lead, I'll say that, and I appreciated all of their efforts. They attended meetings when we had them. You think of Aiken County or Todd County coming all the way up here to Brainerd to have a meeting that maybe was an hour and a half long, was impressive. So I want to express my appreciation for that, but to let you know that this is a group that has one vision and are all working together to make this work out. So in the Board and Water, what is it, Bowser in St. Paul, when I went down there, that was an interesting group. Get down there and find out Todd Holman chairs that group. So it was like being at home, because he and I rode together from St. Cloud down to the cities. But then when you get in there and you see Commissioner Stroman, who I know, and some of the other commissioners that are on that, state commissioners that are on that board, it really was an easy time to present to them. Fortunately, they had no questions, so which means we did a great job of putting together the proposal for them so they could understand what the mission was. And no questions afterwards, and of course I didn't offer to stand for questions, so I just stayed in my chair, and they didn't have any questions, which I'm real thankful for. But it was a fun time, actually, and I usually you wouldn't say it's a fun time, but it really was a comfortable time to be there and present to them. But it was to a lot of work that was done by Soil and Water and Chris and our contract people, so thank you very much.
Would you be willing to make that motion?
I will make the motion to recommend the approval of the memorandum of agreement for the implementation of the Mississippi River Brainerd Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan between the following: the counties of Aiken, Crow Wing, Todd, and Morrison, by and through the respective county board of commissioners, and the Aiken, Crow Wing, Todd, Morrison Soil and Water Conservation Districts, by and through their respective Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Supervisors. Hang on, I'll be done in a second. And further, and the chair, county administrator, environmental services manager are authorized to sign said memorandum of agreement, subject to review as to form and execution by the county attorney. That was 5 minutes long. There's only supposed to be a total of 5 minutes for this presentation, but
I will second that motion. Can I? Roll call?
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
aye.
Commissioner Levke?
Aye, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is County Sheriff, amendment to SWIFT contract. Oh, we got,
Good morning, Commissioners. What we have before you today is an updated amendment to the amendment that was approved on 11/28 of 2023. And it's dealing with the actual joint powers agreement that we have with the state for our bomb squad callouts. Nothing really major changed here. All the actual increases stayed the same. We were looking at increasing the call out per hour from $300 to $400, which then in turn increased our annual rate that we could actually get reimbursed for from $37,500 to $50,000 per year. Where the amendment portion came in was when the state was doing the calculations, they actually did this is a 5-year actual agreement that we have in place here. For the first 3 years, we had the $37,500, and then the second 2 years is for the $50,000 per year. When the amendment first came through, the state had calculated the amendment with the $50,000 per year times or multiplying it for all 5 years. So they had the total contract rate of $250,000 at that point. They came back to us with an updated version with the $37,500 for the first 3 years and then the $50,000 for the second 2 years, which the second 2 years are for fiscal years 2024 and 25. So it's just decreasing the total contract amount from the $250,000 to $212,500 for the total contracted amount. I don't know, we just wanted to bring this forward to you just to eliminate any confusion because you did see this before. I know Commissioner Franzen received email directly from the state. They wanted her signature on the updated amendment, but we wanted to put it through the proper channels and bring it before the board here as well too. So, any questions?
Mr. Chair, if I might, I'm just looking at the ask here, and what I see, Dan, is it says it's an increase for fiscal years 24 and 25, when you said the original was for 50,000 for all 5 years, for each of the 5 years.
Yes, when they actually calculated the total contract amount, that's where the correction came in. They had 50,000 for every year, where it should have been 37.5 for the first 3 years, and then 50,000 for the second 2 years, or for the last 2 years. So the 37,500 should have been multiplied times 3 plus the 50,000 for the next 2 years, coming up for the 212,500 total.
And I understand what's happening. My confusion, if I were an outsider reading this, is it looks like we're increasing by 25,000 in year 24 and 25 because it says increase, when really we're just trying to keep those the same and adjust for the first 3 years, which were at 50 and should have been at 37.5. So the total contract is being reduced by
the 37.5.
by $75,000 actually. Or no, not.
It would have been 37.5, 12.5 per year.
Right. Well, it's being reduced by, what, 12.5?
Yeah, 12,500.
For each year, so times 3, whatever.
Yep, it would be the, $37,500.
That would be the decrease that's taking place. I know I'm being picky here, but it just doesn't read well for me. But I understand what we're getting at, and I don't disagree with that.
Sure.
I think in the original contract amount, they had specified 37.5 a year. And so if I understand this correctly, what you approved back in November was a contract amount of $187,500. Then they sent us a draft agreement that had the math in it at 50,000 a year times 5. That was a math error.
Right.
What they're really doing is funding us at 37.5 for 3 years and 50,000 for 2 years, and that total equals 212,500. It was never 250. That was a math error. And so it is an increase. The math error, it looks like a decrease, but we never got that. So it's not. It's an increase from 187.5 to 212.5. Correct?
Correct. That's what the original contract should have been.
Right.
But instead they had the one, I don't remember exactly what that, I know the original contract amount of 187.5 was on the amendment, and I do believe, I'm not, my recollection is, I remember the 187.5 was on there and the 250 was on there. I don't know if they had any increase amount on there at all. I think that increase amount was left off at that time.
Question, Tim, for you then. In November, when we approved this, was it at the 250 number?
Well, I think the 250 number was being thrown around inaccurately.
Yes, actually, all the verbiage stayed the same as far as the 37.5 for the first 3 years and the $50,000 for the second 2 years. They just threw the wrong number on the total contract amount.
We never got 250. We were never going to get 250.
Right, exactly. The first 3,
Times 5.
the first 3 years are behind us anyway, and we wouldn't be able to go retro back to those years anyway.
It's not a big deal to just change.
I'm comfortable. Thank you.
Okay.
Does any of this have any effect on levy, or is the bomb squad funded from the state?
The bomb squad is the majority of the levy or funding for the call-outs is is reimbursed through the state. And that's where the increase from the $300 to the $400 actually will.
Enters into it.
It will, yeah, and it's all, as far as the budgetary reimbursable amounts, they are in the levy,
Okay.
which then offsets mainly our salaries for the call-outs.
Yep. Any other questions from the board?
I'd like to make the motion to authorize entering into the amended agreement between Crow Wing County Sheriff's Office Bomb Squad and the state of Minnesota. I'm not going to read all the rest of it.
We have
It's
a
there.
motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Lubke.
Aye, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, do you have any questions for me?
Last 3 days been a challenge?
Yes, they have. Getting to work, getting down the roads, yes, it's been a challenge. But,
Any vehicles have to pull out of the ditch that had our
I don't even want to give you
label
that
on the
number.
side?
I don't even want to give you that number.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yes, thank you, sir. I think we're to county attorney. Any questions if county attorney's online or anybody have any questions? Good morning, sir. Anybody on the
I don't
board?
have anything today, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I have not got stuck in the ditches yet.
Yeah,
No questions.
no questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day, everyone.
Yep,
You too.
county administrator.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, yesterday we held a senior management team meeting and we talked about our office hours and come to find out we're not necessarily very consistent. I think we have some of our offices that are open 8 to 4:30 and some that are open 8 to 5 and we got to figure that out. So we talked about that. We also talked about talk to text update. Remember I had talked to you about performance management, and one of the hurdles, the barriers for our supervisors is sometimes the time it takes to type. And some people are better at typing and some people are not. And so we have discovered a tool to do that orally so that you can just record it and it will automatically upload into our performance management software. A much easier way for those people who don't like to type or who are not good at typing to get notes into our performance management system. So we talked about that tool, and there's a couple of different ones, and we want to use one because it's Microsoft, fits with our suite of existing software services. And we also want to make sure that we train the leadership team members on it. That's all of our supervisors and managers so that they know that that's a tool in their toolbox to help. We also talked about tabletop exercises, and I see Clayton Barg, our emergency management director, is here today. And so I was hoping I might ask him a little bit about the tabletop exercises that he is currently working on, and maybe what's the value of tabletop exercises in general, because we did talk about that yesterday.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Mr. Hool. Again, so the tabletop exercise that we're looking at doing here at the next senior management team meeting, I don't know if any familiar with what happened in Grant County a few months back as far as a ransomware attack, but as we're seeing cybersecurity becoming a more and more prevalent kind of issue that we're coming across. So I've been working with FEMA, also with CISA, which is the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, and trying to develop kind of a tabletop exercise that we can kind of come around a table and look at some of the challenges that other counties are currently facing, and not only in Minnesota, but throughout the nation as well, and what we currently have established and kind of the way ahead that we can look at mitigating a lot of the challenges that we foresee. So the tabletop exercise, again, is not going to have all the answers when we walk away from the tabletop exercise, but it's really focused at looking at, okay, what's currently out there and kind of getting your guidance as far as where we should direct resources. Undoubtedly, there's going to be times, whether it be during voting or payroll, as far as where our priorities may lie, and also different agencies within the county as well on who should we bring up first and kind of priority-wise. So again, it's not meant to have all the answers when we walk away from the tabletop exercise, but really to get people kind of focused on some of the emerging trends or threats that, again, not only the counties, but different businesses are facing as well out there.
I remember public health folks dragging me to pandemic and epidemic tabletop exercises and thinking, oh boy, that was a way to spend the day. Thank God they dragged me to them, because then we went through one. And so the tabletop exercise is really just a practice. It's kind of a practice the catastrophe and see what you would do. And it will help to ferret out some challenges that you have and some opportunities that you have to do better than you might otherwise have done.
And it really gives us an opportunity to get, again, all the key players around one table and everybody talking together. Well, I've seen in the past is each agency kind of has their own, priorities of what they think is important. But again, we haven't been really able to vet that throughout the entire organization. So being able to do that and sit down together is, again, very beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Do you have questions for Clayton about that or anything else related to emergency management?
Well, it seems like, your job is the what-ifs.
Yes, sir.
It's all about the what-ifs and having that plan in a folder in place. So the what-if, here it is. And do that ahead of time and saying, what now?
Yes, sir.
So I thank you for being there.
And like I say, we never have all the answers, but you can only hope to have a good baseline so that depending on what the situation is, you can kind of say, okay, well, I've got a good foundation of where I know my resources are, and based off of the situation or emerging threat, we can kind of base our, way ahead from there.
Okay. Well, thank you.
It's a lot easier to deal with the unknown when you've dealt with the known. Mm-hmm. And that's what the plan is, the known. You're still going to have the unknown, and you're still going to have to fly by the seat of your pants in certain emergencies. But you can at least prepare for the known, and you'll be a lot better off trying to handle the unknown.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Clayton. And then finally, we also talked about 2025 budget and budget roll forward. Remind you, we've spent the last 3 years trying to essentially invest in what we have and trying to keep the employees that we have. So 2025 will be the third year of that strategy, and I think it's going to be a bit of a stretch for us. And as that roll forward goes forward, we know that that is already above our budget target. Now, I don't think we need to panic about that. We always start the first round above the budget target, and then we work our way backwards. And there are many things not included yet in the roll forward that will help and will hurt. So we have to go through that process, and just wanted you to know that we're talking very early about it at the SMT level, what's going to fit and what's not going to fit. And it'll be an austere budget year for 2025 for us. Third year of that budget strategy, and then we should be back to the pay matrix operating as normal. Okay? Happy to answer any questions about any of those topics or anything else related to county government.
I just have a question. Instead of typing and you're talking, how accurate is that? Because I know when I do my texting and I try to talk, I look back and read it, and sometimes it says nothing, like I said.
There are issues with talk to text, and there are times when it will not get it quite right. What I can say is, if I was 5 years ago, I wouldn't rely on the technology. It really was not ready for prime time, if you will. It has come a long way. I don't use the technology, but I see Mr. Bray does, and so he's probably better prepared to answer the question than I. My sense is it's a lot better than it was. Is that accurate?
I used it before, but I think it's even more accurate than on my phone. So this is a Microsoft product, and this is just some of these technological tools that are coming online now to help us in our everyday life. I used it, I was on a chat bot with something on my computer, and I decided to use this new thing, and it was perfect for me. You have to pay attention to the punctuation, and it doesn't do names very well. So for example, Jory, so in doing performance management, his comes up as jewelry. So I have to fix that. So it isn't, 100% accurate. You still have to pay attention, but it is amazingly accurate, this new one that IT had found for us.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be happy to show you how to use it after the meeting and try it out.
I'm assuming that it minimizes the number of keystrokes you'd have to take if you were typing.
I'm still old school, and I've been typing since high school, and I can type really fast. And so I keep typing, but not everybody likes to type. Some people are better verbally. And so what I like about it is, it's the tool to fit your personality. But at the end of the day, it's about getting it done.
Debbie has some.
Mr. Chair, could I just add one more thing, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair, to this
please.
conversation? One of the things that the IT team was looking at is to make sure that any tools that we are using in this regard meet with compliance that we need for HIPAA requirements, data storage, CGDN access for the sheriff's office, for our county attorney's office, any of those areas where we have to make sure that we have the protections for data storage, data usage, all of those different criteria. So while this is another one of these great AI tools that we can use and make available to our staff, we always want to make sure and encourage folks are doing it through the right lens and utilizing the right tool for that regard. As Administrator Houle mentioned, this one that we've landed on is a Microsoft brand or a Microsoft built-in into our system that we currently have. So we know that it meets all of those criteria. We just want to encourage folks as they're looking for utilizing these AI type of tools to streamline their work, that they are asking our IT team to make sure that they are vetting these through the right ways. I think that is a real key aspect of making sure that we can get the right tools to serve the needs that we need to have, but still protect the data that needs to be protected as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Deb.
A performance management note, for instance, is public data, but it's also private data. And so, making sure that we get it stored and stored correctly so that we can retrieve it if necessary. So I think there's a lot of reasons why we like the Microsoft product more, but happy to answer any other questions. Thank you for the question, appreciate it. Any other questions related to county government?
I have none. Does anybody on the board? Paul, do you have anything from down there in Florida? Anything to add to the board?
Nope, nothing to add. I use the voice deal all the time, actually, and it works really well. And actually, what happens is the thing seems to adjust to your voice and the way you talk. So I find it to be very effective and really helpful. I wish I would have had it when I was in the Senate, so I could have responded to the hundreds and hundreds of emails that I got. But I'm not too good on typing, so I had an assistant responding to those. But I think it's a very good tool. It's amazing. From when I grew up in the 80s, and I can remember calling my mom long distance and hearing the operator say, we accept a call from Paul. Things have come a long ways. It's crazy. It's crazy. But nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if there's nothing,
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Lepke?
Aye.